Welcome to my new UFOs.
So, an aspect that I struggled with when I was starting to try to figure out my identity was clothing. And in that way, I changed from super basic, like middle schooler clothes that look ugly as hell because I didn't know style. My sister tried to get me to wear clothes that she thought were good, and I hated that, and it didn't look good, and I didn't like it. And so eventually, I found black clothing, and I really appreciated the whole aesthetic of that. In my junior year of high school, I started to dress in a way that I drew a character to dress, which was like pants with rolled up cuffs, solid color t-shirts with solid color long sleeve shirts underneath, some like chunky, ugly, solid colored necklaces, and like funky train conductor hat type things, and just it was a look. It was such a look. Oh yeah, and baseball socks and skater shoes, and it was a look. It was not who I am, but it was a look for sure, and it looked really good. And because of that, I felt a little more comfortable the way that I presented myself, and that was the beginning of not wearing any low cut shirts anymore because that made me so uncomfortable. The fact that that was even like for me being a pre transition person, I really struggled with my body image being that there was cleavage and people would look, and it's like people in high school I feel go through this anyway, whether they're female or male. Sometimes they're just, why are you looking at me? But me, it wasn't an insecurity thing because I felt like I was a fairly attractive high school student. Like I it sounds super weird because I'm 26, but like back then I felt like I was fairly attractive. And oh god, I sound so conceited. But anyway, yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that because I don't know how else to put that. So I knew it wasn't like I'm insecure with like the size of my nose, or I'm insecure with my mouth or my eyes or my cheeks. I mean, I kind of had pudgy cheeks in high school. I've always kind of just had fatter cheeks. It's just this my baby face. It'll always be there. Oh my god, my arms have always been like fairly muscular and hairy, and I didn't have a problem with that after a point. I've always kind of been a little bit more muscular and toned than a lot of the high school females who were around my age, my height, and my body type. There's this picture I have of when I was like 9 or so. I'm on a raft behind the boat being pulled on my family's lake, and I just have these freaking pipes, like these big freaking muscles in my arms, and there's this other one where I'm holding a turtle in front of myself. I'm probably 11 or so there, and I have a freaking like a six pack. When I was shaving it, try to like be somebody and look a certain way, but once I realized that I didn't really care and people liked me anyway, the people that I cared about liked me anyway, I didn't feel a need to try to look a certain way. So then I got more comfortable with my natural aesthetic. That muscularness has always been fairly noticeable, but it never made me uncomfortable. It was like just part of who I am. And there are plenty of people like that. I'm just talking about my own experience after that, like funky tall socks look. I started doing a look that was inspired by 2D of Gorillaz, the fictional animated singer, which was lots of skinny jeans, lots of solid colored t-shirts, loafers, and skater shoes. Well, the skater shoe is not 2D, but I still had a thing for skater shoes. Not necessarily black hair. I stopped doing the black hair thing, and I had more of like a mauve or burgundy color, and blue, and then I did blue hair, and this is where I started like doing weirder colors than just black all the time. It was also a look. It didn't look bad, but it made me really uncomfortable, and then at one point I decided to cut my hair and still was dressing in this ridiculous way, and I'll put a picture in here because I'm sure I can find one. I was starting to realize my identity was not that of a cis female, and then I was starting to realize that these clothes weren't really who I was either, but they were my only way of expressing myself at that time because I didn't understand what types of clothes made me more comfortable. But that's when I started shopping in the men's section, and although they were still the flashy bright colored situation, then I started dressing more basic, like an average type of person, like blue jeans and regular t-shirts and stuff. I tried to adapt into the average clothing world, which was weird because who cares, that doesn't even matter. The reason for this is because I realized after I dropped out of college in 2011, I would have to look a certain part, so to speak, in order to progress my life. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to get a stable job. I wanted to be able to buy my own car. I wanted to be able to get my own apartment. And in order to do these things, in my mind, I had to look like a regular person because I was still struggling with such identity problems at the time that I knew I wouldn't be taken seriously if I dressed the way that I did and if I presented myself the way that I did with the bright, obnoxious colored clothes. And I looked like a kid. I looked like a little 12-year-old. And I mean, I still look like a little kid, but it's not that bad. The black clothes were completely out of the question at that point. I didn't even think about them anymore. I realized that I was transgender somewhere around 2011 when I was questioning my identity and trying to find out what it was that was making me so uncomfortable about my own self. And it was intervening in my relationships in that I wasn't comfortable with the sexuality title that the person that I was dating called themselves or considered themselves. And that was a big clue to me, first of all, because I was never just solely attracted to women. I'm attracted to anybody that I find attractive, who has a smashing personality, and my subjective standards of attractiveness, I guess. The fact that the person that I was dating identified solely as a lesbian made me super uncomfortable, and I did not understand why. So I was like, okay, time to do some searching in myself. I was looking online for something to explain these feelings of dysphoria, which obviously I learned the word dysphoria for these disconnected feelings with my mind, my body, and my emotions, and my personality in general that just did not fit the title female. I got my first full-time job at Subway, and I was a delivery driver, which gave me more confidence driving. I was able to save up enough money with that job to buy my own used car, which was like $4,200, and I still have it, and it's in great shape, except for some rust spots. At the time, I was living by myself at my dad's place. I got stuck in this weird state of dressing like somebody else, and I'll go into that in a different video. I just keep saying that in all my videos. I got the job at Subway in 2012 because I worked there for 2 years. When I was working at Subway, I was super uncomfortable with the way that I was being received because I didn't feel like it had anything to do with me. So the customer base was always receiving me like this cute little girl, and it was disgusting because it had nothing to do with my personality at all. I mean, I like to be pleasant and sociable to people. Most people enjoy positive interaction, and so that was being taken and responded to in such an inaccurate way I don't know how to describe it. It just made me so damn uncomfortable, and I don't mean just like a creepy guy's hitting on you type of thing. It was literally like the way that everyone looked at me, whether it was women or men. They looked at me like I was this peppy little girl working at a Subway, and I was like so not comfortable with it. So I actually wound up talking to my coworkers at the time who I explained I was bigender, and that's when I came out in the beginning as bigender. They didn't really understand. They tried. I corrected them. It was very casual. I was never rude to them. I never got mad at them. They would try, and they wouldn't always get it right, but they obviously were trying. And me being new to it too, I couldn't really hold them to an unrealistic standard because it was hard for me to get used to it as well. In fact, it took me a while to just get used to my name that I started having everybody call me at that time. I identified for probably 3 years or so as bigender, which to me was an in-between state. At the time, I wasn't really solely comfortable on one side or the other, and I knew that you don't have to be on one side or the other. That's the whole process of transitioning. You're finding out who you are so that you can identify, and so during this process, I identified as bigender because, one, I wanted it to be easier for my coworkers to go from calling me the pronouns that they were used to calling me the pronouns that I may have down the line. And in the middle of that, I was going by they, them, their pronouns, gender neutral. I thought it'd be easier. It was way harder for everybody to adapt to. Oh, what? You can't use plural on one single person. Oh, what is this? You know, you do it for pants. Why can't you do it for a person? But anyway, and that was pre legal change. It was hard for everybody. It was hard for my family. Nobody in my family at that time really could do it. My dad was the only one who really showed any initiative, and he still messed up, but it was the very beginning. So that was the name and the bigender identity. Then I got the job where I work now, which is a factory for automotive things in, I think, 2014. In 2014, I moved out to my first apartment. It was a piece of crap. It was terrible, and I lived there with Ray, and eventually we moved apart in December of 2015, something like that. And I moved into my apartment now. And in November, I'll be moving again. Then it was toward 2016 that I came out to my job as a trans guy. I started hormone therapy, I think, 2016, August maybe. Whatever. It's in my beginning transitioning videos. Anyway, go check out my transgender UFO videos. That gives details on the process of me starting hormone therapy. I don't think I mentioned regular therapy. In Wisconsin, you actually have to go through therapy so that you can be psychologically analyzed, decided upon by a specialist that indeed you are struggling with gender dysphoria and gender identity conflicts, and that you are indeed transgender, which is, I guess, a big deal because a lot of people don't really know for sure. They're very finicky, or maybe they're spontaneous, they're impulsive, and later down the line they realize it wasn't for them, because that does happen. There's nothing wrong with not being certain, but this is when you try to really deeply think more before making these huge leaps, because some of the effects of hormone therapy will last forever even if you stop the hormones. So that's a big decision. I thought about this for a long time. I thought about it for about 7 years, and that was from the time that I started questioning my identity and trying to figure out who I really am. And it honestly, it alleviated so much of my stress, even though the majority of the people that I work with are elderly women, and not all of them want to adapt to change. They have done a great job so far adapting. Even though, yeah, it's been 4 years since I started. I came out to them after I had already taken my first shot, so it was kind of a push that helped me accept that, yes, I'm really doing this. This is a reality, and everybody is going to need to accept that reality too, because it's not just something I'm doing in my head. There is going to be a physical difference that they notice as well down the line, and I explained that to them in the meeting, which was really uncomfortably coordinated by the HR at the time, who fortunately no longer works there. And so, Piz! Alright, you guys, thank you for sticking around. I have one more video to get through, and that will sum up the rest of this little pre-transition video series. My fourth and final video is going to be about my visit with the plastic surgeon for my top surgery consultation, and I'm really excited about that one, and that's what it's all leading up to, so stick around for part 4. Thanks for watching.